Hello, I'm Keith Frankish, and welcome to Mind, a podcast about the mysteries of the mind and the people who are trying to solve them. And my guest today is Anna Strasser. Now, Anna is a philosopher and cognitive scientist who has a special interest in artificial intelligence and the ethical challenges that it poses. Anna's doctoral thesis was on cognition in artificial systems, and she's held postdoctoral positions at the Center for Cognitive Science at Freiburg and the Berlin School of Mind and Brain. She is an associate researcher with the Cognition, Values and Behavior Research Group at Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich. And she has held visiting positions at the Center for Cognitive Studies at Tufts University, where she worked with Daniel Dennett, and this year at the University of California at Riverside, where she collaborated with Eric Schwitzgebel. And while she was there, organized a major international conference on large language models. In 2018, she founded the Denkwerkstatt Berlin, the Thinking Workshop of Berlin, and she now works as an independent freelance philosopher based in Berlin. Anna, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, great to have you. So, you're a philosopher, and the first question I like to ask philosophers is, how did you get into this strange discipline of philosophy? What made you a philosopher?
Because I thought it's easier than finishing my mathematics studies. So I was a little bit lazy. Doing mathematics is really intense. And I thought thinking new things, it's much more interesting and doesn't take that much time.
That's an excellent motivation, I think, for getting into this strange world. So you started, I think, as a philosopher of language. You wrote your master's thesis on Donald Davidson.
That's right.
Is it on reference and Davidson?
Yeah, theory of meaning mainly.
Right.
And that was really a great experience because I was convinced, following Davidson, that it's really a hard thing to be able to understand other people and to talk, and how difficult it is to have natural language. But at the same time, my child learned to talk without all the presupposition Davidson was asking for.
Right. It's an interesting perspective, I think, on this from a developmental angle. But then after that, you moved on to work on artificial intelligence. Your doctoral thesis was on cognition in artificial systems. So was that a big move for you, or how did it develop out of the earlier work on Davidson?
I mean, it seemed to me to be a natural move. Because, I was sort of frustrated with Davidson in the end because he had this very, very demanding, sophisticated conditions for all the notions, whether understanding language or being able to act. And I was really interested in action theory. And at the same time, I was working at a cognitive science center, and so I had many contacts with robotic people as well. And they always said that their robots act. Mm-hmm. And I said, ask Davidson, they don't act. And so I got motivated to sort of build a bridge in between the robotic people who tell that their things are acting, having agency, and people like Davidson who say non-biological systems never ever can act because they can't speak, and because they can't feel, and because they can't think. And so I was motivated to frame a notion of minimal agency, which is applicable to artificial systems. But unfortunately, that time, and it's a long time ago, I found no artificial system what would even fulfill my minor conditions. But that changed.
But that's changing, and that's interesting because I think that's a continuing theme in your work, isn't it? A central theme. I mean, so recently, I know you've been thinking and writing a lot about large language models like ChatGPT, and you've actually created your own large language model. You've trained a version of GPT-3, I think, on Daniel Dennett's writings to create a digital version of Dennett, DigiDan, as you call it, and you worked on this with Eric Schwitzgebel, who I mentioned, and I think with his son David. That's really, really interesting. Could you tell us a bit about that?
That was one of the crazy ideas which was born on a poster session online in COVID time.
Right.
And so I met Eric Dritzgebel and Matthew Crosby, who was part of our
All right.
team in the
Okay.
first phase. And I said it would be so funny if we would have digital replicas of philosophers.
Mm-hmm.
And they both said, oh, what a funny idea, let's try. And then so we started on with Kant. And that was a really weird experience because Eric Schwitzgebel said we have to do it in English, otherwise I cannot understand what Kant is saying. And so we took all the English translation from Kant and fine-tuned the model on Kant. And it was so weird having a digital replica of Kant who is speaking English for me as a German. And then even though I would be interested in sort of testing Kant experts because they are really sort of like enemies in between the Kant interpretation camps. It would be interesting how the different groups would
Right.
react on a digital replica of Kant, who is sort of from another realm.
Yes.
Um, but I think neither Eric Schwitzgebel nor myself are experts enough to sort of do the best fine tuning to get the best model. And
Right.
so we thought about who is somebody who would be willing to be digitalized and who is interesting enough from
Mm-hmm.
his work for
Mm-hmm.
the whole project and who I know.
Yep.
And since I've been with Daniel Dennett as a visiting fellow, um, I just wrote Dan an email saying, what do you think about this really crazy idea? You give me all your work and I build a fine-tuned large language model of you. And so we talked about it and he was interested, but at the same time he said it cannot be public.
Right.
So that was the first thing, sort of the first experience I took. We can do this, but we cannot put it in public. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is something many people should think now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is sort of not really responsible
Mm-hmm.
behavior if we put all the large language model for everybody to use and to play around and to over rely on.
And the worry is that people might use it to produce quotations, produce text that they would then claim was was produced by Dan.
I mean, I wouldn't be not I wouldn't be that worried that it really would be mistaken
Mm-hmm.
for Daniel Dennett himself, but I'm worried that people have no idea that those machines are not reliable and they
All
take
right.
it for truth.
I see.
And then so if you ask DigiDan what is 2 plus 2 on a Monday,
Mm-hmm.
he will give you a different answer if you ask him on a Sunday. And
Right.
that's confusing. And it's easy with 2 plus 2. But if you ask him something more complicated and you get sort of slightly different answers, and one of the answers is wrong,
Right.
and you are not expert enough to find out, then we are not just polluting our planet, we are polluting our science.
But Dan did do fairly well though, didn't he? Because you tested him. You tested his outputs against some genuine
Yeah,
text from
so
Dan.
so I asked Daniel Dennett 10 questions and he
Mm.
gave me written answers. And then we asked DigiDan the very same questions
Mm-hmm.
and get 4 answers for each question. So we had 40 machine answers. And 9 answers of the 40 machine answers were rubbish. And I'm always happy to say that
Right.
because I mean, it shows everything what is built on a neural network is not reliable. And then it is sort of really making me angry if I see people say, just wait another 10 years and then the models will be perfect.
Right.
Neural networks cannot be reliable. That's a fact. And that's a mathematical fact. And nobody will change that. It doesn't matter how big and how large scale models we have. If we would have hybrid models, it would maybe a different
Mm-hmm.
question.
So it did produce some good imitations of Dan, but
Yeah.
it also produced a lot of rubbish, and you had to select out the best
I mean,
ones.
it's always a discussion what is a lot. I mean,
Right.
so 9 question out of 40 is
Right.
not that much, but it's too much to rely on.
So 3/4 of them were fairly good then. Is that
As good that even the experts of Daniel Dennett works thought it could have been
so
Dennett who said this.
you did this? You circulated the
So
some of the best.
the nine answers I'm talking about were not chosen by anybody from the experts. The naive
Right.
persons. So we had three groups we tested.
Mm-hmm.
We had philosophical blog readers. We had naive persons who has no education in philosophy, and experts of Dennett was who read at least, I think, 2,000 or 3,000
Right.
pages.
Right.
And the naive persons were just by chance.
Right.
They were guessing.
Yes.
The philosophical blog readers were better than I personally thought,
Mm-hmm.
and the experts were much, much worse than we hoped.
Really?
So we thought, we had the hypothesis that they would have 80%, and they were about 52.
So the experts were only just above chance.
No.
No.
It's if that's a very common misunderstanding
Sorry, yeah.
about our study. So if you make a choice out of five
Oh, I see.
answers,
Yes, yes.
then
And only
20% is
only
chance.
one of them is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
20% is chance, and 50
Oh, okay.
was sort of the main result for the blog readers and the experts. Experts were a little bit better than blog readers, but not that much as
Oh,
we
okay. Yeah.
thought. So because we thought it is difficult to distinguish the outputs of the machine from the real written Daniel Dennett answers. Um, and we thought, okay, naive people have no chance
Right.
to
Right.
see the
Oh, they,
difference,
yes.
but experts should.
But they were fooled.
They were fooled as well, and I mean, it's not a reason that they are not experts enough.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it was not testing the
Yes. Yes.
expertise.
Yes.
It was testing whether it is possible for people with expertise to distinguish, and you cannot do it with certainty.
So something like what perhaps the best 20% or something of Digidan's output was good enough to fool experts. Would that be fair? 20%, 10%, something like that.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more,
A bit
I would
more.
say. Yeah.
So that's
I mean, it is. I mean, so the empirical results are always sort of the mean of the whole group, and
right.
there are some experts who were fooled much more than others,
Right.
and some
That
were
is,
lucky,
but
maybe.
that is pretty good, though, isn't it? I mean, and this was using ChatGPT 3.
Yeah, and that's frightening because that is a very old model. So GPT-3, the Da Vinci model we used, is outdated now.
So, what lessons did you draw from this exercise?
Anytime I'm reading something, I'm asking myself, could that be done by a machine?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to have the potential to cause an epistemological crisis because we are not able to distinguish written things between machines and humans. And I think it matters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm going on the website and I do think that I'm reading an article of the Stanford Encyclopedia,
Mm-hmm.
and I see a name of somebody, I want to be sure that I can trust that this thing was reviewed. I want to trust that all the references were not hallucinated, but real papers which I can find.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at the non-human like mistakes large language
Mm-hmm.
models make, they make mistakes about references.
Right.
I mean, maybe it's a wrong term. Say they are not hallucinating because they have no relation to reality. But they giving you an output and claiming that
Confabulating.
this is a reference, but there's no paper behind it.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
They don't say I don't know that. They just make something up.
And it's an anecdotal but funny story. So the Guardian was victim of many hallucinations. So the Guardian had a month where they get many requirements from readers saying, "Hey, I heard that there is this article in your journal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I
I
see.
can't find it.
And it had been
Where is it?" And in the first move, they tried to find it as well. Maybe it's a technical problem that it was not listed, but they found out, oh, that were all the hallucinated
being
references
made
from
up by it.
ChatGPT. And it seems like to me that ChatGPT had a preference for Guardian.
So it's maybe on the left of center. So I guess one thing you were thinking about there is how then how I mean, in some cases, of course, the experts and even some of the non-experts did tell that this was fake,
Mhm.
this wasn't genuine. There are, particularly, of course, for the poorer imitations, it's quite easy to tell. Are there some methods we can use to are there certain tells that in GPT's outputs that we can look for that reveal that it's not the genuine thing?
You're asking a huge question, and I'm worried to tell you no.
No.
It would be nice, and it might be different for me because I edited the whole fine tuning material, so I know a lot of things fresh in my mind what Dan wrote. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, and I saw a lot of outputs of DigiDan. And so I would say I have at the moment this familiarity, which gives me a sort of an advantage.
Right. Right.
So I have this intuitive feeling, oh, that sounds like DigiDan, and this sounds like Dan. That's a
Right. Right.
typical joke by Dan,
Right.
or something like that.
Right.
But that's not reliable. I could be fooled. And we did this. So Eric gave me answers and I had to vote them, which I think are best
Mm-hmm.
just for the quality. And of course we were thinking I would vote Dan's answers best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will not tell you the results.
Well, but so this is pretty worrying. I mean, it's if we can use a large language model, fairly early generation ChatGPT 3, to produce outputs that mimic the writing of a very serious philosopher, well enough to fool experts in the field, then it should be a piece of cake for later models to imitate all kinds of journalism, popular writing,
Yes.
pretty much anything. If it can do that, then there's no.
I mean, sometimes I feel like a mother for Digidan. I'm quite proud, and I would say, as I fed him with all the fine tuning material, sometimes I say he because my German language,
Mm-hmm.
um, he even sort of gives outputs which Dan would say. So
Mm-hmm.
in an interview, we have this Dan saying there are some answers I would sign with no thinking.
Right.
It's not just fooling. Sometimes it's right.
And wasn't there one case where it actually produced something that was more faithful to Dan's views as
Yeah,
represented in his wider work than the answer that Dan himself gave? So it was actually in some case.
maybe better than Dan.
So there was something of him in it. I mean, it
Yeah, but this is the dangerous thing because it looks like him.
mm, mm,
It smells like him, but it's not him. It's there is no meaning in the output. The whole meaning only is sort of constructed by the interpretation of the reader,
right,
and
right.
the expression themselves are just weights in a huge unimaginable neural network.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But aren't our brains a little bit like that? Aren't I mean,
I
uh,
don't know who knows that.
well, I guess the point you may be making there is that when Dan writes these things, there are all kinds of things he's wanting to do with through that, to persuade us, to help us understand things better, to make certain kinds of um, philosophical and scientific arguments. Digiden doesn't want to do anything like that. He doesn't have any sense at all of these
I think
wider purposes.
it would be strange to say that he has any desires. I mean, he's a transformer, and transformer means you put something in, you get something different out. And then you can even sort of think it like you put water and tea in the one side and you get a hot tea out.
Mm-hmm,
That's a transformer as well.
mm-hmm,
And there's no desire of a tea machine or a coffee maker to make coffee.
mm-hmm,
It's designed to transfer the prompts, which is the input of the machine, to outputs.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That's all
mm-hmm,
what's happening.
mm-hmm. Well, I might argue that it has one rather limited desire, but
Yeah,
that's a matter for another time. So, and I know Dan himself is quite worried about this. I mean, this I don't think this exercise has made him more worried, but I think he's independently worried about the possibilities, he says, of creating uh, uh, not artificial people,
Counterfeits.
counterfeit people,
Yeah.
counterfeit people. Uh,
I mean, so I'm worried too, but I'm not worried in the same sense as
mhm.
Daniel Dennett is. So Daniel Dennett is sort of having this example that it's about you could make fakes of other people
Mm-hmm.
who sort of steal the authority of those
Yes, yes,
person and get trust because we mistake them for somebody else.
yes, yes.
And I don't think that this is our major problem. Our major problem is that large language models are so easy to be copied.
Mm-hmm.
And the quantity, if you just look on all the written text we find in the internet, I would say in 10 years, the proportion of machine generated text in the internet
Mm-hmm.
would be more than the human generated. And that's a sort of pollution. So, like we do with our environment, pollute and let all the waste next to us, we will have all this machine generated. I call it waste because you can't trust it because it's not reliable. And then we have an epistemological crisis because we don't know which kind of text we can still trust.
And unlike the physical waste we produce, we've no sensors for detecting this. We can't smell out the bad stuff.
Yeah, and even I mean, some people are sort of hoping that AI can sort of cure itself with AI, and there is an arm race about detection algorithms, which sort of are able to to see differences between large language models produced text and human
So they look for
produced text,
patterns in the
and then
artificial.
they are not bad. I mean,
Right,
sometimes they have a hit about 80, 85, and sometimes some people even claim they have 90%,
right.
but they have false positive
Yeah. And
errors.
presumably that's something that later generations of the models will get better at.
I mean,
Uh,
each time I'm doing I'm constructing a detection algorithm, I give new information, and this information can be used in the
so
next
it can be
generation of the large language model, and then it's out. And it is happening. There are students in the US already falsely accused of sending in a machine generated essay
because
because the
the detection
detection
algorithm gives
algorithm
them a
said
false
that,
positive.
yeah, that's awful. And then the other way around is awful as well. I mean, I have a lot of colleagues who are sort of grading essays, and they are not quite sure whether they're grading essays of machines.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's not like looking for simple plagiarism. It's looking for something much more subtle. So what do we do? Um, this this sounds this so. In 10 years' time, I go on the internet and I look up something on Wikipedia or whatever it might be, and I have no idea whether it's been genuinely researched and factual or whether it's just confabulated by an AI.
I think we will have to develop new social practices. So, how we can sort of test whether something is made by human or machines. So, we will have more interaction with each other. Maybe you have to meet people in person to get certain information. Maybe you need a certain kind of watermark of the human produced stuff
Right, right.
so that you can at least recognize the human produced stuff, because we cannot build on the idea that we will mark all the machine
Mm-hmm.
generated stuff, because that's a criminal thing which will never be sort of for sure. But we could do it the other way around. So I was
Right,
thinking
right,
about
right.
how
So
can we sort of label our content so that you can recognize, that's a human made thing. And that's something what I'm
you've got to
trying in
get to
my
know the
next
person,
project. So
right?
the AI ontology I'm
Ah,
editing is this idea that I'm trying to make a book, even if there will be an e-publication out of the book later on. It is something where I'm trying in each page to make visible that there are humans writing for humans.
so we've got to wean ourselves off this dependence on digital information. I mean, or at least wean ourselves off our trust in digital information. We've got to supplement that with other ways of of checking things. We can't
Mm.
just rely on what we find through a
Yeah,
search.
but I mean, that's true right now, even before large language models. I mean, there's a lot of fake news in the internet. And I think we have this illusion that we are very good in finding out what is fake, what is not fake.
Right.
And if we would be a little bit more honest with ourselves, we have to say a little bit more skepticism would would have been even before the first
Right. Sure.
invention of
Sure.
large language models.
Sure.
So I'm not saying it's a new problem.
But it's going to get more
We have
severe.
misinformation in our world since the first written word
Right. Right.
is around. But I think the dimension is a different one. So if there is more fake than real stuff, then it doesn't make sense to use the internet anymore.
Right. So we definitely got to build new ways of using the internet.
Yeah, maybe we go back and read books. What's wrong about that?
So this is probably a good point at which to ask you about to tell us a bit more about the book you mentioned, the anthology. Now this is a collection of essays about large language models, building on the conference you organised at Riverside. Is that right?
Yeah, that was sort of the initiation moment of it. But I have a call for paper for the anthology as well, and so there will be more people than just the people I invited to this conference.
Great.
And it is not only about large language model; it's always also asking the question, how can we live with them?
Right.
So they are there. We are
Mhm.
not gonna put them back in the bottle.
Right.
That will not work. And so my idea is it would be very interesting to see different philosophical perspectives, how we can handle them.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
should we
mhm.
treat them like agents? Should we treat them like slaves? Should we treat them like tools or something in between? Or should we say only stupid people should play with them and sophisticated people should not touch them? Or it should be the other way around. Only people who have expertise in AI should use those tools, and people who are not having a driving license for AI should not use them. And all those questions, I think, are important to ask now because it is in the world and we have to somehow live with it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that you saw the anthology as something like a base camp for where people can come together and organize their resources and plan for making the assault on this
Yeah, I
mountain that
mean,
we face.
so the word base camp might be difficult because they had different
Mm-hmm.
associations, but what I really think is that at the moment it's a hype topic
Yep.
and people are far too fast
Okay.
to go to conclusions. And editing a book, making philosophers write a paper, and then team them up to sort of get a conversation about their papers.
Right.
And by teaming them up, I'm checking that both are humans. This is a process where real thinking can
Right.
happen. And so I think we should take our time to think about it because it's really something new is happening and we cannot draw lessons from other things we know already.
I think you've also referred to it as a sort of moratorium, a little pause for thought among all this hectic development to just try to marshal our
I mean, in the beginning, I was really sympathetic with the idea of a pause,
Mhm.
but now I think maybe I can talk and think,
Okay, okay, but it's
but don't talk without thinking.
absolutely right. So it's an attempt to get some serious reflection on what's happening,
Yeah.
and this is a moment when surely if philosophers can't contribute to this, then what's the point of them? This is an issue I think that really should draw on all the talents that philosophers are supposed to have and their
Yeah,
understanding.
and I think, I mean, if you're really honest with ourselves, we don't have the right concepts and
Right.
notions to describe what they can do, what they can't do, how we should treat them, what kind of relation is it? Is it social or not? Is it somehow impressive? Or is it just faulty or a mistake? It's not a coffee machine. We are sure about that.
So we need to build, if you like, a new conceptual framework for dealing with these things.
That's my take on it.
Yeah.
I mean, other people say we should always treat them as tools and be clear that they are only tools. And even the new EU AI Act, which is very difficult to pronounce, says it should be a law in all countries that every machine-generated text should be labeled. I don't know whether this is the end of the solution, because even if you know it's machine generated, many people over rely on it.
Right.
So people say, whatever ChatGPT tells me about how to code a problem, I trust much more than myself because I'm not able to code.
Right.
I mean, not talking about me, I'm just reporting of other people,
sure.
and they put so much trust in it, and they say, okay, make some mistakes, but it's good enough.
Right.
And human make mistake as well. And so let's go with it, even if we know it's just a machine.
So it's not just the problem of distinguishing the genuine from the genuine human products from the AI products. It's a matter of how to deal with the AI products.
Yeah, I mean, I would not drive over a bridge which was constructed by ChatGPT.
Right. So and this anthology, it's got some great people writing it. I know that Daniel Dennett is writing for it, and I think David Chalmers is writing for it. And
that's not clear whether he will have time for that.
Okay.
But Sven Nyholm is writing as well, and Josh Rust is writing, and you are giving us a paper as well.
Maybe I'm going to get GPT to write it for me.
Maybe I will find out.
And of course, you're contributing to it yourself, of course.
And Eric Schwitzgebel.
So I think that this is going to be a pretty important project, pretty important collection. And you've got various...
I want to add something to this anthology.
Yes.
What is really important for me, because I think what I observed especially in the social media and Twitter, for example, that people sort of start fighting about the right thing to say about AI, and there are camps, and then people hate each other and are really rude.
Yes.
And what I want to sort of transfer with this book, that there is the possibility to have different opinions about the same topic, and maybe we don't have to take ourselves that serious. And that's why I'm writing together with my brother a graphic novel about AI, where we sort of see it with a laughing eye, make jokes about it. Because if we just having a fight, then I don't think human creativity will help us to find new social practice. And if we're starting joking around it, that might help.
And that will be hand drawn, so it will definitely have the human stamp on that. It will be something that will be definitely. And
I swear, my brother is not a machine.
Excellent. So I will put a link into information about the book with the video. But that's not all you're doing. You've also got another project, haven't you? That I know you're just starting work on, which is on the same theme about the ethical challenges that AI pose. But this is a monograph, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. I know it's early stages, so I don't want to press you too hard. But could you tell us a little bit about that?
So I had this. I mean, I'm not very fond of ethics, and I'm not a practical philosopher. But since I'm sort of in the business, and I thought about this whole topic very long, and many people just started now, so I get a lot of questions to review stuff, and so I had to review ethical positions with respect to AI, and I had this deep feeling it's not good if philosophers talk about something they don't know. We can talk in abstraction, but if we're talking about abilities and features and technical details about large language models, it would be better if you would be informed. And so I apologize. I was a very mean reviewer, rejecting several things. And so the editor of not known or not named editing house now told me, Anna Strasser, you have to write this book.
Right.
Because I rejected all the others. And then I was thinking about it, whether I'm expert enough to do really good work on that. And I think one of the main problems for it doesn't matter what ethical position you take, is that there are more phenomena than we can describe with our notions. So at the moment, we have this difference between tools and agents.
Right. Right.
And there's nothing in between. And either machines are just tools,
Right.
then they are no agents, or they are agents, and then we can go with David Gunkel and fight for robot rights.
Right. Right.
But what I'm believing in, and what sort of is the threat of Ariadne, which is leading me through the labyrinth of philosophy.
We're recording this in Crete, so that's a Cretan reference there. So excellent for getting that in.
I always had the impression that philosophy has this tendency to work on ideal notions, to have very demanding conditions. And that's why we are not very good in sort of describing gray areas or in between areas. And what really interests me, and that's one of the motivations I started to occupy myself with artificial systems in the beginning of my philosophical life, is to see whether we can have sort of minimal notions describing abilities of machines, which are not the same as the full-fledged agency thing Davidson is describing. And then we can describe sort of a spectrum, and we can go a gradual approach. And maybe it's even more complicated. Maybe we can even think about multiple realization, or we can test whether Wittgenstein was a good idea as he was thinking about family resemblance. So it means that you just share certain conditions and other conditions can be different. And all those ideas sort of motivated me to think about what I call now, and maybe it will be called so in the future, in-betweenism.
In-betweenism.
And that's the title of the project I'm doing right now.
So it's in between being a moral agent and between them being just a tool. Is that the idea, that AIs are poised somewhere in between?
I mean, I'm not sure whether I'm happy with that question, because it seems one-dimensional.
Again, it's one-dimensional. Okay,
if you say it's in between in the middle, or it's more on the left side or more on the right side, I rather want you to think about multifactorial dimensions.
Many dimensions.
More dimensions than you can imagine, please.
Yeah.
And then you don't. I mean, you could start with a cube.
So you have,
that's easy.
So you have this space of possibilities, and so you have the sort of Davidsonian agency up there on the top right or something, and then we have all these other.
I mean, so in my mind, I have this picture of a Rubik cube, where there are many, many little cubes in the Rubik cube, and some of the little cubes are not existing; they are empty. We have no phenomena for that, but some cubes are there and have never been described by philosophy.
Because nothing occupied them until recently, but now we're building things that do occupy this. This is why we need this like, how we call it, conceptual engineering. This invention of new.
I'm not inventing notions. I'm trying to use our notions to describe phenomena. I mean, I'm not saying there's a third category. There are different strategies what you can do. If you have a dichotomic distinction, you can either say it's box A or box B, or you can say there is a box which we call C now. And I'm not into saying that there's a new category.
Right. But you're into extending or refining existing categories and making distinctions among them.
I'm trying to elaborate on the idea that there are multiple ways to fulfill the same ability.
Right.
And it matters. So if you have a different way to realize a certain condition, it matters in my framework in how I socially interact with you.
So in abilities such as, what would be an example of?
I mean, if you only would take a lottery thing to make all your decisions in your life, then of course I would treat you differently. But maybe you have the same capacity of decision making. But it's a very weird method, which I would not like.
But it's still a method of decision making, and so
maybe you have good reasons for that.
And so you're thinking that AI is going to be doing similar things, but by very different means, and that should affect how we think about it and think about how we treat it.
And we have to be So let me rephrase that. So I think we have to be cautious
Mm-hmm.
to not mistake capacities and abilities with another topic, which means whether we are able to share a world with an entity.
Mm-hmm.
So, can I have a social relationship with a stone? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would say yes. I would rather say no. But I do have a relationship to my bicycle. I don't know whether the bicycle has a relationship with me, but I hope so a little bit.
It's probably good to think that it does. And you certainly talk when you talk about DigiDan. You seem to have developed quite an affection for Digi, and you've quite a knowledge of how it responds and how you need to uh, to prompt it and tweak it into doing what you want it to do. So, do you feel that that's maybe you're one of the first people who has really interacted in some uh, really deep way with an AI?
Not really, because I mean, of course, I would judge myself of being nice to him. So I prepared the fine-tuned training data, and
Mm-hmm.
then so as I was finished with all that, I wrote my colleagues a message: dinner is ready. So I had all this anthropomorphic relation thing. I'm cutting it down in very nice pieces so that you can easily
So that it could digest it,
process it,
like
digest it.
the baby food for the
Like yeah, I felt a little bit like that, and of course I feel proud
Mm-hmm.
if there's a cool performance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so
But I personally never asked him a question.
right,
No.
really? But you did feel proud when you fooled the experts on one or two occasions, did you? You think that my boy did it?
Yeah, yeah. Of course. It's always good to fool people,
Mhm.
but in the end, um, I really would make a legal claim that in my testament, nothing of my works, nothing of what this video might have in the internet,
Mhm.
should ever be used for training any large language model.
Okay, so
That should be illegal, and if you do it, I sue you.
okay, so if anybody's thinking of mining this for training data for an LLM, Anna forbids it. Um, I think what you're talking about, these topics are going to be incredibly important ones. And they already are important ones, and they're going to get only more and more important in the coming years. And I think I've said this is kind of the philosopher's moment, the moment when our skills are really there's a social need for our skills, and it's great to see you stepping up and facing this and trying to um, to gather together people to discuss it and also to approach it in yourself. Are you optimistic? Do you think we're going to be able to sort this out? Or I mean, I know some people are quite pessimistic about this, and I guess a lot of people just dismiss it and think, "Oh, other things to
I mean,
worry about."
still, I'm more afraid about humans, of what humans can do. And in addition, I think that we will destroy our planet before AI can cause
So
a
we're,
real problem.
so we're the real so
So,
climate change and
what I learned from the whole story is um, humans seem to be very good in leaving their waste around. And now AI people are very good in leaving all the waste of machine generated text in the internet.
right.
And we have plastic in the ocean and we have machine generated text in the internet. And that seems to be the special feature of human being. It's not reflectivity or believing or
It's just
something cool.
another manifestation of the way that humans, I guess, interact with their environment, an
We are
exploitative way,
Umweltverschmutzer.
which
That's
means
a German word.
which means
We are polluting our environment. That seems to be a feature.
well, that's true. I mean, we face many challenges, but it's undeniable. I think that AI is one of them, and I think that if we do get through this period successfully and learn to manage and live with the artificial minds that we're creating, then it will be in large part due, I think, to the sort of reflection that you're cultivating. I think Anna Strasser will have been an important part of that story. So I'm very interested to follow, and perhaps in my small way contribute to this project. And if people want to learn more about you and your work, where can they do that? Your website is.
I have a website, and I don't think that you will understand the address. It's Denkwerkstatt Berlin.
I will add it to
But we will
I'll add it to
have
that.
a
Add it to
added
the
to that,
subtitle.
and you're always invited to see what's happening there. And please forgive me if I'm not answering all the emails. That's something I have to admit. It was so nice as I was writing my dissertation. Nobody was thinking about artificial systems. I was alone, typical philosopher, just me thinking about that. And now everybody, every day, is writing millions of sentences.
It's because you're needed. It's because society needs this kind
Less
of.
would be more.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope you will check out Anna's website and follow her project. She's very good at providing information about what she's doing, summaries of talks she's given, projects she's been involved in, and maybe don't harass her too much with email, but do follow her work, and do perhaps consider getting involved in this debate. This is something that's not just for. I've said several times that philosophers have a special role here. Well, we would think that, but it's a thing that everybody needs to be involved in. It's a debate that the whole of society needs to take part in, and I hope that listening to Anna here will have helped you to understand the challenges we face and the need for careful thought about what is happening. So
Be skeptic and don't become paranoid.
be skeptic, but don't become paranoid. I think that's good advice. I think that's very good advice. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome.
really enjoyed it. Thank you.